Hey, you've seen this ugly mug before, so let's get straight into it. How long does it take you to get your first stripe as a white belt? We'll get straight into the video. So I did not get a stripe as a white belt. I just showed in, day out, and I think about a year later I got my blue belt. So I just showed up in and out, and then about a year later got the blue. But nowadays a lot of clubs, a lot of academies do stripes. So it's a common question that people have. How long will it take you to get your first stripe as a white belt? Like what that first stripe shows is, your progression in the sport. You getting used to the positions, the names, the sweeps, etc. And it shows you that you're, understanding the sport as BJJ is. So you're getting used to it and you're progressing. So you're showing in, day out, and so forth. So the question is, how do you know if you're going to get a stripe or not? So there's a few categories that people use to determine how you're going to go, how you're going to get promoted, gain that stripe. It changes from academy to academy, but there's usually three chain of thoughts with that. One is time, one is attendance, and two, depending on where you are, it's a combination of both of those. So they're the three main three main things they use to determine whether or not you get that stripe. One of the criteria they use is time. So time on the mat. So usually some places tend to use 2 to 3 months worth of time on the mat. So if you're training 2 to 3 times a week, you do that for 2 to 3 months. That's typically when you'll get awarded the first stripe in some places. And scouring the internet, reading a bunch of articles, that tends to be roughly that time frame, around that 2 to 3 months. If not, it goes up to that 6 months. So 3, it can be up to 6 months depending on the time you're on the mat. So if you're only training twice a week, that's 2 hours of training, and eventually that might just take a little bit longer. And another criteria that commonly is used is how many times you attend class. So sometimes when you might have a scan kind of barcode and you just kind of scan in and they keep track. So most academies kind of keep a track of everyone. So who's been in, who's been training, however long. So some gyms or academies use different methods to determine how they're going to go. But another one is attendance. So if you do 3 sessions a week or 2 sessions a week for 3 months, that ends up being close to 35 hours, if not more. So 35 sessions depending on how long. So that's sometimes a good requirement that some gyms use. Is 35 to 40 sessions is enough to gain that first stripe. And in some gyms as well, skill is sometimes checked as well. Sometimes maybe not. It depends. So with skills like checking your positions, your sweeps, basic submissions, basic sweeps as well, basic throws or takedowns. So they might just check your knowledge when it comes to that. There's no formal grading usually for stripes, but they sometimes check your knowledge, and they see if your knowledge is sound as well with how long you've been training for. So that's another thing as well. That research that I was saying, I've been looking online and things like that. Most places and the articles I read looked around 70 to 80 hours worth of time on the mat is usually the time when people get that first stripe. Plus or minus attendance, and attendance, it kind of varies. So I've been looking, some places about 30 to 35, some go upwards to 50, so 30 to 45 seems to be the right about range where people tend to get promoted with, given a stripe. So that's usually what I found just scouring the internet, and that coincides to being roughly 3 to 6 months worth of training depending on how frequently you're attending class. That's kind of the main ways. I would say 90 to 95% of gyms or schools, whatever you call them, would use that as a way to determine whether or not you get that stripe, is using a combination of attendance and time and skill, or just one or the other. But the other caveat to this is, at the end of the day, where you're training is a business. So they're going to want to keep you coming back. So the other way is, because you've got 4 stripes, they might 3-4 months in between each stripe, because it gets you coming back. So at the end of the day, you're paying them 30, 40, 50, 60, wherever, however much you're paying for that sessions that week. They want you to keep coming back, so they're going to give you that stripe, so it's like a bit of a reward, and so you keep coming back. So the easiest way to say that is, it is a bit of an incentive for you to keep coming back. Is if you get that stripe, within 3 to 4 months, you're going to keep coming back to training. That is a pessimistic and a cynical way of looking at it. However, some gyms may employ that as a bit of a thing, but that could also be the psychology of why people want that first stripe as well, is it shows that they're on the right track and whatnot. Because when it comes to stripes, the only stripes that actually matter are on your black belt. That's what gets registered to BJJ, etc. So those are the stripes that really, really matter. And now the question on everyone's mind is, how long will it take? So each gym is different, as I was saying. The best way to do it is, like previously in another video, I said and mentioned, like, you should find a buddy or talk to people in the gym and see, like, whoever's got a 2 or 3 stripes on their white belt. See how long it took them. That will probably get you the best gauge. Don't ask your coach at all. That will simply just not be a good thing. Just see how long it took them. And then count how long it took you as well. So if it is a time, then 3 months, you got it, and then you'll probably expect to get a stripe every 2 to 3 months. If it was attendance, so you hit 30 classes and then you got it, then that's another way of looking at it. And then you can be like, okay, probably another 30 attendance and I'll get my second stripe. So that's the 2-way. And then the other way is, if your academy or school does it with the combination of the two, grab that calculator, figure it out, and that's just a bit harder, because things tend to change with that one. So it's a bit tricky. And if they use skill as well, then that's even trickier. So skill could be anywhere between 3 to 6 months as well, depending on where. But it's highly individual as well when it comes to getting that stripe. Comment down below how long it took you to get your first stripe as a white belt. Again, I didn't get mine, but I'm interested to see what everyone else, and how long it took everybody else to get it. And don't forget to stay happy, healthy, and beautiful.